impulse buys. So lots of people can impulse buy on Poshmark, but I, again, having experience in selling boutique items over the years, know that there is definitely impulse buying going on with my boutique items, because when I share items, I often see an influx coming in on specific types of items, right? So like if I share the Zara stuff, I don't always get immediate results, right? It could happen later, 2 hours later, when someone finally did a search for it. Whereas when I share my jewelry, that's boutique, oftentimes I'll get an immediate result from that, which means someone just happened to see it. Like they just happened to open up their phone and my thing was there and they're like, oh, that's cute and it's not that expensive. Let me put in an offer. Download your free reseller resource guide today. I constantly update and share with you discounts, favorites, tools, and resources to help you with your reselling business. After the video, click the link in the description and get your totally free guide today. I've made over $42,000 selling boutique items, and I love doing it, and I don't think I'll ever stop, because just selling an item again and again when you're only doing the work once is literally like reseller heaven for me. I love it. But I'm also not going to stop selling thrifted items either, because there is a lot of money to be made there too. And if you're picking the right items and you're getting it for the right cost and you kind of have all your ducks in a row, which I've shared lots of videos about those things, then you can make a lot of money doing that too. So I think the answer is selling both is a great way, whether you're a part-time Poshmark seller or a full-time Poshmark seller. You can balance both. It is easy to balance both. And I'm going to share with you today pros of thrifted and pros of boutique, and then the cons of thrifted and cons of boutique, because they both have both. And so I think that if you're someone who's wondering, should you do one or the other? I think the answer is both, and you can easily dip your toe into boutique while doing your thrifted or vice versa or whatever. So I'm going to dive in. This is going to be kind of like lots of info here today. So grab your whatever. I've got my leftover coffee here. So let's dive in. So first I'm going to start with the thrifted pros. So these are positives to selling thrifted, which if you're a Poshmark seller, you're probably already selling thrifted items. So the first start is low COGS, and that could be yes or no. So I put low COGS ? Because depending on your buying, you may be getting them for low COGS, and that's cost of goods sold. You may not. So your buy cost. Are you buying it for low or high? I put it as a question mark, but it's also something to be compared when we talk about the boutique ones as well. So brand recognition, right? If I order a Zara palette from Helpsy Source, you get 10% off if you use my code Rebecca the Reseller. When I buy a Zara palette, then I know that people are searching perhaps for Zara items specifically, as well as maybe they just want the gingham pants as well, you know? And so they don't really care what brand it is, but they want the gingham pants, but then some people want the Zara gingham pants. So you get that brand recognition when it's a brand and you're selling these pre-owned items. So brand recognition is a plus. People are searching for it. People want to find that particular brand. They know it fits them. They may be replacing an item they already had. So people are searching for it. I think in general, now having sold both, that for certain items, there is a higher sell-through rate in thrifted because of those reasons. People are searching for it. There's brand recognition, and I think people are going to Poshmark most of the time with getting thrifted items in mind. Like they know it's a pre-owned item that they're probably buying. So I think that in general, there is a higher sell-through rate with thrifted items. I also think in general, you can get a higher ASP for the regular person more often. So I can thrift and choose to sell only the best items from that Zara palette. And so I can have an average sales price of $30 or $40 or $50 from that, you know, and other brands, of course. So I think from selling thrifted items, you could potentially have a higher ASP. You could also have a higher profit margin. That's not guaranteed. That goes back to when I said lower COGS ? If you're buying at the bins and you're spending $1 and you're listing items for $50, you have a great profit margin. But if you're going to the bins and buying things for $1 and selling them for $12, not as good of a profit margin. So things to think about. The other thing that I thought was really something to consider and why I do like both is that when you are a local buyer, so if you go to the thrift store and you buy items, you go to your local buy, sell, trade store and you buy items, you're buying the unfair advantage that you have for your location versus somebody else somewhere else. So I'm in Florida. I find Lilly Pulitzer like the cows come home. There's an entire Lilly Pulitzer section in my buy, sell, trade store, and I frequently buy it out. Like, we'll buy all the dresses that are there. So that's my unfair advantage, right? Because if you're in the middle of Missouri, you may not come across Lilly Pulitzer in as plenty as I do. And so it may be harder for you to buy it. Doesn't mean you can't buy it, but it would be potentially harder for you to buy it as much as I do. So by selling pre-owned items, I'm exploiting my unfair advantage by being able to get that Lilly Pulitzer all the time. Someone that lives up in the Northwest, or Colorado, they're getting all the good ski gear and the Spider and the North Face and all the, great stuff like that. So everybody's got an unfair advantage. It's up to you to find out what that is and to put it to good use. So I think those are all pros of selling thrifted. And if you're here, you're probably already doing that. So let's compare that now to the pros of selling boutique items. Posher VA is a tax-deductible business investment that pays for itself many times over each month. It increases Poshmark sales because it shares and sends offers more than I ever could manually. It handles all my shares, automatic offer to likers, bulk offers, and it can do price drops and relists. When my coaching clients add Posher VA, it makes more sales basically immediately. The best part is that you get your time back. More time with family, thrifting, whatever. Get 20% off with code Rebecca the Reseller and the link below. If you don't know, selling boutique means that it's being sold for the first time. That's what Poshmark says. So if I have an overseas wholesale vendor that sells me a gold necklace, I'm going to buy 20 of them and I'm going to list them on Poshmark. They're coming from the manufacturer to me and I'm selling them to the public for the first time. It was never sold in a retail environment before. That's boutique. Going to TJ Maxx and buying a new with tags item and selling it on Poshmark is not boutique. Going to the bins and finding a new with tags item and selling it on Poshmark is not boutique. So it has to be sold for the first time. Also, if you bought liquidation from, let's say, Macy's, which I've done in the past, that's not boutique either because it was at a Macy's store, someone didn't buy it, or Macy's manufactured it and it didn't sell and it was overstock or whatever. And so it was sold for, it was presented to the public before and it is not being sold for the first time now. So it's not boutique. So boutique is wholesale stuff that you buy, usually in multiple quantity. You're selling it for the first time. You're getting it from the manufacturer. So just so we're all clear on that. So boutique pros, I also put low COGS ? Because having done boutique for several years now, I know how to get low COGS. Like there's stuff that I can get from overseas shipped for $2 an item, sometimes $1 an item, sometimes $10 an item. It all depends. So I know that even with shipping from overseas, I can still get items really cheap and have a low COGS for it. I can still get items more expensive. So that's why it's a low COGS ? I think it's comparable. But a lot of people don't believe that you can get boutique items for that cheap. And I know exactly how to do that. So I know that that is possible and I do it all the time. Impulse buys. So lots of people can impulse buy on Poshmark, but I, again, having experience in selling boutique items over the years, know that there is definitely impulse buying going on with my boutique items because when I share items, I often see an influx coming in on specific types of items, right? So like if I share the Zara stuff, I don't always get immediate results, right? It could happen later, 2 hours later when someone finally did a search for it. Whereas when I share my jewelry, that's boutique, oftentimes I'll get an immediate result from that, which means someone just happened to see it. Like they just happened to open up their phone and my thing was there and they're like, oh, that's cute and it's not that expensive. Let me put in an offer. So it's impulse buying because it's a small item, often jewelry or a scarf or a belt or something like that. And there's not a lot to think about with those kinds of items. Like a pair of earrings, it's not gonna not fit, right? Like a scarf is gonna not fit. So there's like low risk to someone buying it. It's brand new, so they don't need to worry about that it's used and they need to really check it out. Like there's just a lot of things that are kind of off the table for a buyer to think about, and so they can make these impulse buys. And so I feel like that happens a lot with boutique items, and that's a plus. That it can sell again and again. That's my favorite one by far. The best plus of selling boutique items is that I order everything once, it comes here, I pull one out, I take the photos of it once, I list it once, and then it sells again and again, however many times that I purchased it for. So sometimes I buy 3 of something, sometimes I buy 12 of something, sometimes I buy 36 of something. There was one swimsuit that sold like crazy this summer, and I just bought 60 more. So it depends, right? Like you have to have a little track record. There's some things that go along with doing it well. And so the great part is that I can sell it again and again without doing that work. And I love it because I like to be a full-time earner, but a part-time worker. So if you're a part-time seller, boutique could be a really good option for you because you have limited time. And so being able to do the work once and sell it again has to be attractive for you. I don't know why more people aren't doing it, because for me, every month I'm getting 500, 1,000, whatever dollars coming in from work that I didn't do because I did the work months ago. And so that's just really, it's my favorite thing. Less labor, since multiple quantity saves time and money. So this might be unique to me, but I have, a virtual assistant that lists my items for me. I have a photographer that photographs my items for me. And so if I had a photographer that had to photograph 10 Zara items, that would be 10 per item fees. And then my lister, my virtual assistant, has to list, and that's 10 listing fees for those 10 items. But if I buy 10 scarves, I'm paying them one time to do the photos, one time to do the listing, and I can sell it 10 times and earn profit 10 times, but only off of the labor cost of one time. Yes, because then every time it's more and more profit. So for me, that is also something that kind of weighs into my decision. I like to have a balance of both because it's a lot of cost to have helpers on a thrifted only operation. When you have boutique, you get sales every month without all of those additional labor costs factored in. The other thing is that you can order online from home. Technically, you can order, online from home for Thrifted too, which I do, but I forgot to put it in the pros over there. So it is nice though, because with boutique, you can order online from home. When you order boutique, you get to use the stock photos. It's okay because it's a manufacturer, it's not a brand. And so they are usually, I guess there could be a situation where they don't want you to, but I have never had any issue with the vendor that I work with most regularly, and I've worked with many vendors, giving you an issue for using the stock photos. In fact, one of the vendors that I work with gives you the photos to download so that you have them, so that you can sell the item. So knowing that going in, before I buy an item, I already have a stock photo or multiple stock photos to help me sell this item, that's amazing. That's a great plus. So I think that that's a really underrated selling point to selling boutique items. They're new. There's no flaws. They're brand new. Everything has tags or is brand new in packaging. And so there's no flaws. You don't have to quality check. You don't have to worry about cases. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's all brand new. And that takes a load off, just like mental. So it's not as time consuming to process. One, again, because there's no flaws. Two, because it's an easy photos process. I'm not photographing every single one. I'm photographing one of that SKU, doing it once. And you already need to do one per SKU. Yes. The other thing is that you can have a lot of SKUs in a small space more often with boutique, because you could sell scarves, which are really lightweight and small, and you can fold them up, jewelry, keychains. There's so many different kinds of things, accessories of various kinds. There's so many small boutique items that you can sell that if you are in an apartment and you're a part-time seller, you should be selling boutique hands down, because you have a small space and you can fit hundreds of earrings in one bin, and you can only fit 20 or 30 items in that same bin if they're thrifted clothing items. So I think that it really is something, if you're a part-time or someone that lives in an apartment, you really want to kind of be paying attention to this and think about if boutique is right for you, because you can fit a lot in a small space. And the last pro that I thought of is that you can fill holes in your inventory. And this is something that I've grown to know over time. So in the beginning, I just wanted to sell boutique because it was multiple quantity and I knew that that was like great. But I realized over time, I could selectively pick certain items to have in my boutique that offset the type of thrifted items that I typically sell. So I often don't sell tank tops and shorts and things for the summer because to me, they don't sell for high enough. So for me to do all that work of sourcing it and prepping it and photographing it, listing it, blah, blah, for $15 pair of shorts or $20 pair of shorts, like that's not what I'm here to do anymore. I'm kind of past that in my reselling career. Doesn't mean I didn't do it in the past, but I'm past that now. Don't forget to stop by the Rebecca the Reseller Academy, where you can find all of the products and all of the educational tools I have available for you, including all the free goodies. Here you can find coaching calls, POSHMARK closet reviews, digital downloads, including my free reseller resource guide, as well as all of my courses and all of the bundles to save you lots of money. Hope you'll stop by soon at the Rebecca the Reseller Academy. But I could get a swim cover up and that sells over the summer. It actually sells all year long, but I can get swim cover ups, have a few of those, do the work once, sell it again and again, and make even more money than I would if I sold the shorts. And those were individual, and the swim cover ups are multiple quantity. So way less work and way more money. That's a no-brainer. I'm filling holes in my inventory because mostly what I sell are jackets and coats, dresses, pants and jeans, sweaters. Items of value tend to be the heavier kinds of items, not so much the summer items. And so now I can add swim cover-ups from my boutique and make a decent price off of that and a decent profit again and again without having to sell individual pairs of shorts and tank tops. So for me, that was really crucial. So those were all of the pros. Pros for thrifted, pros for boutique, all the reasons why we should do both, in my opinion. There are some cons. So for thrifted, cons, it's really labor intensive. I don't have to tell you, it's a lot of work to be a reseller. And that's why for me, because I do enjoy this part of it, the teaching part, the education part, spending it with you, I have farmed out the listing. I have farmed out to automation, the sharing and the offers. I have farmed out the photography so that I can do less actual reselling work and more of the teaching while still being a reseller. So it's really labor intensive. And if you're doing all of it, again, maybe if you are a part-time seller, it is a downside because you have to make a certain amount of money to put in all that work. It's time consuming. So labor intensive, time consuming, I guess that's all the same. Labor costs. If you are someone like me that does employ someone to do the work for you, it is costly because every single one costs money to do. And you don't know if it's going to sell. So like I have a rack here that's ready for my photographer full of clothing items, and I'm going to pay for every single one of those to be photographed, even if they don't sell. Even if it takes 6 months to sell, I'm going to pay her, this month to photograph it all. So it can be expensive. Flaws. The best that we can do, we still find flaws. And so if you're someone who is not good at finding the flaws, who ends up having to fix a lot of things because you found flaws that you didn't want to find, or just in general, you're dealing with fixing stuff up because of flaws, that's a lot of time and effort, and flaws can make your listing not sell for as much, or you have to do a lot of work to potentially make it sell. So flaws are a problem. You can only sell it once. I'm looking at this really pretty gingham Zara dress right in front of me on the rack, and I'm like, that's going to be a great seller. Somebody's going to totally want that. I wish I had 5. And I don't. I only have 1 to sell. So I bought it, in bulk from Helpsy Source, but I'm going to have my photographer photograph it. I'm going to have my lister list it, and then I can only sell it one time. I paid the money and I'm going to make the profit, and then it's over. And then I have to do it all over again with something else. And that gets to be a grind that is difficult sometimes and puts a damper on your growth sometimes. So the other thing is that it's space heavy. So because I'm selling items that are more value, so it's coats, it's sweaters, it's dresses, these could potentially be bigger, bulkier, taking up more space. And I have to have so many of them because, even if you have 1,000 items listed, you're only going to sell so many in a day. So you have to have a lot. You have to have all of those hooks in the water to catch your fish or to make your sale. Whereas with boutique, it's a little bit different. So here are the cons for boutique, because there definitely are cons, and boutique is not for everyone. I know it's for me based on lots of experience, and I'm really, happy to continue to share it with you guys to say, hey, you may want to consider this, but I'm always honest with you, and these are some of the cons. So there is no brand recognition. Nobody's searching for your no name, whatever swim cover up. So you have to have the keyword ability. You have to be able to keyword it in such a way that people will find you based on the style that it is or the elements of that item. So if someone's looking for a white boho crochet caftan swim cover up, they're going to totally find mine because I put all those keywords in mine. And so even if they might end up thinking that they want Joe Schmo brand, Free People brand, mine's still going to come up based on all of those keywords that they may have searched. Like, sure, if they put Free People swim cover up, mine's not going to come up. But if they put Free People boho caftan blah, blah, with lots of keywords, mine might come up even though they put Free People. And if they don't put a brand, because they don't really care what brand, but in their mind they're thinking they want a brand, then they come across mine because it had bohemian in it, then they would potentially sell mine. And this summer, I had one swim cover up that sold at least 3 or 4 a day, many days of the week. Like, it was insane. I've never had that kind of success from one boutique brand. It was nuts. So I think that if you hit it right, you can get a really, really great opportunity, but you do have to rely on your keywords, not on brand. Not as many people are searching for it. So again, if they're coming to Poshmark looking for Zara, they may not think to find your no-name gingham pants. They were looking for the Zara gingham pants. But doesn't mean that it can't be found. It just means that maybe not as many people are searching for it. Slower sell-through. Boutique is a long game for me. So if I find something that I feel is a really good seller, I'll buy 12, I'll buy 36. I might start with 3. When I know it's a really good seller, I'll buy more. But 12 and 36 now, based on my experience level, I feel pretty good about. So if I buy 12 aren't going to sell in a month. I'm going to buy 12, but 12 might sell 1 a month over the next year. But that means that every time it sells, I got money for basically free work because I did the work once today, and then when it sold the first time, that made sense. And then every other time that it sells, that's free work, but you're making the money. When you have enough of those stacked up, I make, like I said, $500 to $1,000, and I'm trying to build it to where it's over $1,000 every single month that I didn't do that work that month. Because I don't buy boutique every month. I buy boutique 2 or 3 times a year, a big bunch, and then I sell it through. So for me, it's more of a longer game. The sell-through isn't immediate, but it's nice because it brings you in sales even when you're not, quote, working. Lower ASP, this is not always true, but it can be, at least the way I do it. I'm not trying to spend $20 on something that I want to try to sell for, 60 or 80, like you've seen some of those boutiques where they have these like glorious things and people are selling it for $80. I don't do that. That's not the way I do my boutique. I try to do affordable things that I feel will have broad appeal, and I don't have a big following to where people are like coming back to my boutique to seeing what's going to drop. So for me, I'm okay to sell many pieces of jewelry for a lower ASP because it bulks up over time, and I'm more after the not doing work part of it. So I'm okay with a lower ASP because you sell it again and again. Lower profit margin question mark, because again, it depends on what you're buying it for and what you're selling it for. Again, if I have a Zara dress and I buy it for $5 and I list it for $50, I'll probably sell it for $35. And so that's a pretty good profit margin. I might buy a boutique jewelry item, a pin or whatever, for 50 cents. And then after the shipping, maybe it's going to be $1 or $1.25 because shipping can be expensive. And, then I only sell it for 10. So I'm only making a few dollars after the fees, but I get to sell 20 of them. So a few dollars 20 times adds up to basically the same, if not more, than what I did with the Zara. And I'm doing the same amount of work, but I get to sell it again and again. So it's a plus and a minus for me. Like, it might be a lower profit margin, but I am okay because I sell it again and again. There are lots of bad vendors out there, so you do need to be careful. You do need to build trust with a vendor or take someone's advice about a vendor. You do need to start slow, but there's lots of bad vendors out there, including the Poshmark wholesale market. Don't ever buy anything from there. It is extremely overpriced, and I don't think it's good quality. So for me, I got burned a few times from the Poshmark wholesale market, and I will never go back. I find my own vendors, I test them out. Those are the vendors that I use. And then the other thing is that the shipping, if you're dealing with an international vendor, can be very costly. Sometimes the shipping on an item, especially a jewelry item, can be more than what the actual item costs. But it all works out because it comes out in your average cost of goods. So the item might cost you 20 or 50 cents and then $1 of shipping. So altogether you might be at $1.50, but you're still going to sell it for $20 or $15. That's still okay in my book. So again, plus minus whatever. So that was really intense. It was a lot of pros and cons, but some people really like to weigh all that stuff out. You don't know what you don't know. So the only thing I will say is that if you didn't know, in my Rebecca the Reseller Academy, I do have a Build Your Profitable Poshmark Boutique course, and you can get 20% off with code VIDEO20. The link is down below. And this course is step-by-step, walk you through everything from not having any, not even being boutique certified in Poshmark, not knowing what vendors you can use if you have your reseller license, what to order, how to factor in those shipping costs and order in a certain way where you make the most of that order. What are the kinds of ways you want to list your item for better success? I've done this again over the last few years. I've made almost now $50,000 just from my boutique items. And for me, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's basically free work earning me money every single month. So it's not passive, but it's passive-ish. It's passive adjacent. And so for me, it's a wonderful thing because I get full-time money from my reselling business, in part working part-time hours, partially because of having my boutique. So if you are thinking about this and you want my vendors list and you want all the step-by-step instructions, go ahead to the Academy and put in code VIDEO20, and the course is called Profitable Poshmark Boutique. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!